Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to our channel. Hey, before we dive in, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like button, turn on your notifications, and drop a comment below telling me, do you think Jungkook and Jimin are the most underrated artists in the world right now? I read every single comment. Let's go. Okay. I need you to stop whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to tell you is not an opinion. This is not fanbase hype. This is not a stream this campaign talking. These are cold, hard, verified numbers, straight from Spotify, straight from Billboard, straight from the music industry itself. And once you hear them, I promise you, you will never look at Western music media the same way again. Because two young men from South Korea just quietly rewrote the rules of the global music industry. And barely anyone in mainstream media is covering it. So today, we're going to fix that. Let me start with a name you all know. Taylor Swift. The most streamed solo artist on Spotify with 118 billion lead streams. 13 Grammy wins. The Eras Tour, the highest grossing concert tour in history. She is, by any metric, the biggest artist on the planet right now. Nobody is disputing that. But here is the thing, and this is the part that's going to make your jaw drop. Taylor Swift's most streamed song on Spotify is Cruel Summer, which has accumulated an incredible 3.2 billion streams since its release in 2019. Vocal Media 3.2 billion. That is her crown jewel. That is the peak of her entire catalog on that platform. Now hold that number in your head. Because I'm about to introduce it to some other numbers that are going to give it a serious run for its money. As of February 2026, Jungkook's solo debut single, 7, featuring Lato has accumulated over 2.8 billion streams on Spotify, the first song by an Asian artist released in 2023 to cross that milestone, and it currently sits at number 69 among the most streamed songs in Spotify history of all time. Time number 69. All time. In a list that includes artists who have been releasing music for decades. Jungkook released 7 in July 2023. That's less than 3 years ago. And he's already sitting in the top 70 songs ever streamed on Spotify. And climbing. When 7 first hit 1 billion streams, it did so in just 108 days, the fastest any song had ever reached that milestone in Spotify history, beating previous record holders including Miley Cyrus's Flowers. US. News and World Report 1 billion streams in 108 days. That record belonged to the entire history of recorded music on that platform, and a 25-year-old from Busan, South Korea, broke it. But wait. It gets even more insane. Because it's not just the total stream count that should have the music world talking. 7 has appeared on Spotify's weekly top songs global chart for 136 consecutive weeks, the longest streak ever for a solo Asian artist in the chart's history. Time 136 weeks. That is 2 years and 6 months of being on the global chart every single week without interruption. No breaks. No gaps. No slow weeks. Every single week. For context, most viral hits from Western pop stars trend hard for 4 to 6 weeks and then disappear. 7 has been on that chart since July 2023 and it is still there in March 2026. That longevity is not manufactured. That is genuine, sustained, global love for a song. And somehow, this is not breaking news on every major music outlet in the world. Now let's talk about Jimin. Because if Jungkook's numbers made you stop and stare, Jimin's story is going to make you question everything you think you know about what it takes to succeed in the global music industry. As of February 19, 2026, Jimin's lead single, Who, from his second solo album, Muse, surpassed 2.3 billion cumulative streams on Spotify, 581 days after its release on July 19, 2024. He achieved this without any featured collaborator, making him the first Asian solo artist ever to take a song without a collaboration to 2.3 billion Spotify streams. Music Times No feature. No Western pop star's name attached to the title. Just Park Jimin. His voice. His artistry. 2.3 billion times. And here's the detail that deserves its own paragraph. Last May, Spotify actually deducted 21% of Who streams after flagging suspected streaming activity. Despite that deduction and the intense scrutiny that followed, Jimin's supporters responded with consistent listening that ultimately carried the track past 2.3 billion streams anyway. Just Jared, they took a hit. And they came back stronger. That's not a streaming campaign. That's a fanbase that genuinely loves the music. Who spent 33 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, the longest run ever for a K-pop male solo track. Music Times and Jimin's album, Muse? On February 18, 2026, Muse crossed 3.8 billion cumulative streams on Spotify, marking the fastest pace ever recorded for a Korean-language album, and the first and only Korean-language solo album to reach that milestone. Sportskeeda, the fastest ever for any Korean album. Released while Jimin was doing his mandatory military service, meaning he could not promote it, could not go on tour, could not do interviews or TV performances. The album came out into the world with no artist actively promoting it, and it still became the fastest Korean album to 3.8 billion streams in history. Let that sentence roll around in your head for a second. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, okay, but Taylor Swift is still bigger overall, right? And yes, in terms of total catalog streams and monthly listeners and cultural footprint, Taylor Swift is in a league of her own. Nobody is trying to take that away from her. But here is the specific record that Jungkook broke that Taylor Swift has not, and this is the "what Taylor Swift couldn't" moment the title promised you. Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero holds the 24-hour streaming record with 17.4 million streams on release day, a Taylor Swift record. But her most streamed song, Cruel Summer, sits at 3.2 billion total streams. CNN Jungkook's 7 is at 2.8 billion and still climbing every day at over 5 million streams daily. The gap is closing. But more importantly, Taylor Swift has been releasing music since 2006. She has a 20-year head start. Jungkook released his first solo single in July 2023. Less than 3 years in, he's already within range of her biggest song ever. And what Taylor Swift has never done, what no Western pop star has come close to doing as a solo Asian artist, is what both Jungkook and Jimin have achieved with their longevity records. Jungkook became the first K-pop solo artist to surpass 10.5 billion cumulative streams on Spotify, reaching it in the shortest time ever for an Asian singer. Koreaboo 10.5 billion. From one solo artist. From one profile. Taylor Swift's catalog is massive and spans 20 years. Jungkook's solo career is barely 3 years old. And here is the part that I think deserves the most attention, and the part that honestly frustrates me the most about how this story is being covered, or rather, not covered. K-pop streaming on Spotify increased by 362% globally over a 5-year period, with Southeast Asia up 423% and the United States up 182%. South China Morning Post: the genre is not niche anymore. It is not a subculture. It is not a phase. K-pop, and specifically BTS solo artists, are now a structural force in the global music economy. Spotify's 2025 Wrapped data revealed that BTS was the most streamed K-pop artist globally for the 8th consecutive year, despite the group being on a hiatus for military service. South China Morning Post: 8 years in a row. While on a military hiatus. Most groups don't even survive 1 year of inactivity. BTS dominated the charts for 8 straight years even when they weren't making new music as a group. And now that Jungkook and Jimin are back with the full group comeback through album Erarang, released March 20, 2026, with a 79-show world tour beginning April 9th. These streaming numbers are only going to get bigger. We haven't seen the ceiling yet. We haven't even come close. So let me leave you with the bigger question that I think this entire conversation points to. Why is Western music media still treating BTS and their members as a trend? Why does a song have to be in English, released by an American artist, and pushed by a major US label to get the kind of breathless coverage that these numbers deserve? Jungkook hit 2.8 billion streams. Jimin hit 2.3 billion with no feature in under 2 years. Both of them are closing in on Taylor Swift's biggest song. And neither of them had a headline in Rolling Stone or Billboard that reflected the magnitude of what they did. That silence tells you everything you need to know about the bias that still exists in how the mainstream music industry talks about artists from Asia. The numbers don't lie. The charts don't lie. The 136-week consecutive streak doesn't lie. ARMY doesn't lie. I want to know what you think. Drop your comment right now. Do you think Jungkook and Jimin are getting the recognition they deserve from Western media? Or is this the most underreported music story of 2026? And which record surprised you the most? Jungkook's 136-week streak, Jimin's 2.3 billion with no feature, or the fact that Jungkook is already at number 69 all-time on Spotify at just 3 years into his solo career? Tell me below. This comment section is about to be a debate and I am here for every single second of it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. Genuinely. Now do me a favor, share this video with one person who still thinks K-pop is just a trend. Let the numbers do the talking. Like this video if it gave you something to think about. Subscribe if you want more content like this. We cover BTS, K-pop, and global music with real data and real conversation. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. We'll see you in the next one. Annyeong.